Hey guys, so this time I decided to make a hummingbird bird feeder, and it turned out really great. It's a great project that you can make in just a few hours. I think it looks really nice. It's clean and it's colorful, and it really does work. I made a few of these a few years ago, and the little hummingbirds come right up to it, and it turned out pretty well. So you can. It's a one board project, as I said, so that's pretty cheap. And the tubes, you can actually get the tubes at pet stores. I actually got mine at Amazon.com because I wanted to order a large quantity of them, so it was just a little bit cheaper for me to do it that way. And I got the plan from a book written by A.J. Hamler. It's Easy to Build Birdhouses, A Natural Approach. And it's a great book. I've made probably 5 or 6 different birdhouses on there. And I've even got a book report of it on my website at woodlogger.com. But H is a great woodworker. You should check out some of his stuff. I read one of his articles in, gosh, I think it was Wood Magazine. It was one of the Wood magazines, where he did some Civil War furniture, and it was pretty neat. I'm really tempted to make something like that. So anyways, here's the video of what I did to make this, and as always, check out my website at woodlogger.com.
For all the rough cuts on the feeder, I decided to just use my miter saw. It's a pretty easy setup. All the boards are pretty small, and it just worked out really well.
So for the hummingbird feeder, there's really only one finish cut that has to be done on the bandsaw, and it's the top and the bottom pieces. And so I've got my top and bottom here, and what I'm going to end up doing is I'm actually just going to tape these together. And I'm going to use my quick corner to figure out my corners. And I'm going to do a 1 3/4 on this one. Okay, so I've got my corners marked, how I'm going to make my cuts. So now I just need to head over to the bandsaw and finish cut these off.
So there were really no tricky cuts going on here. Everything was pretty straightforward. You just follow the template that you drew with your quick corner and just cut your corners off. So the next part was to drill holes into the top of the feeder so that the tubes can slide down. And the top part of it, actually, the hole goes all the way through, and then the bottom section, it goes into the wood about 1/2 inch to hold the tube. And then after you get the bottom section cut, then you have to actually cut another hole all the way through the piece, a much smaller hole, and that's where the little tubes will actually slide out.
So next up, I want to make the centerpiece of my hummingbird feeder. It's going to kind of go something like this, and that will actually sit on the base right in between, and that's pretty good. I'm going to use an exterior rated glue to hold it, and then I'll anchor it with some brads. Let's just do that real quick. Got that centered pretty good. Well, sort of. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, so I've got my centerpiece now. Next up is just really attaching this to the base. It's going to go something like that. And again, I think I can just kind of eyeball this and line it up as best as I can. And I will secure that with some brads as well. Okay, well, I've got my base and my center, and my top is going to sit something like this. All
Alright, well I've gone ahead and I've drilled my 2 holes that the hanger is going to slide through, and what will happen is we'll slide it through here, and then eventually it'll hook on right in there and just kind of support it that way. So really the next thing I got to do is just bend this wire as best as I can, and I don't really know of any real good way to do it. For mine, I'm just going to kind of find the middle of my rod, and then I'm just going to kind of use this as a template, I guess, and just see how it goes. I'm going to bend this over as best as I can. I've kind of got that centered. I don't know. Maybe I'll try and bend it right here as well. I think it's going to be okay. I can straighten it out a little bit. Okay. Let's take a look. Both sides slide right in. And here we have a top. So let's see if I can bend this over without too much grief. And I got my other side in. Okay. It's not too bad. So I've got my hanger on. I can now lift this up. So when I need to change it, and this kind of slides around. Alright, well I've got my hummingbird feeder built. I just need to check my assembly for the hardware to go with it. So I've got the little feeder tube that you see here, and then I've got my tube that'll hold my liquid, and I push that together. That actually stays pretty good. So I try my other side, like so. Alright. Looky there, by cracky, I've got a hummingbird feeder. So now I just need to fill this up with liquid and hang it up for the birdies.
So as always, if you want to see more pictures and information on how I made this, just check out my website at woodlogger.com.